things unfold. Good news is the new moon is upon us starting tomorrow, and depending on where you're located in the world, the first part of the morning, if you're on the Pacific side, it will be in Aries. If you're on the East Coast, it will go into Taurus. So, and that takes place at 2:57 p.m. tomorrow. Hallelujah. The new moon is upon us. I know a lot of us are like, oh, it's been a rough week for a great many of us. And I want you all to know that we are all victims to our stars and the energy that evades. So with that being said, it will get better. Hang in there. Tonight, I want to ask you guys a quick question. Are all of you out there, are you ready to harness the power of your subconscious mind to heal your body and your life? Are you ready for the power of therapeutic hypnosis to change your life? I know I am. I have a great guest in store for you guys tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce you to an alchemist and a hypnotherapist. He founded the Alchemy Institute of Hypnosis back in 1984 in Santa Rosa, California. This institute is a California state-approved vocational school. So there is on-call training for those of you metaphysicians out there and massage therapists or anybody that walks that path. Excellent opportunity here. This establishment offers weekend and month-long residential hypnosis career trainings. They also lead to certification by the National Guide of Hypnotists. Ladies and gentlemen,
National Guild of Hypnotists.
National Guild of Hypnotists. Ladies and gentlemen, David Quigley.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the show, David. Very much an honor to have you on. I've been looking at your website the last couple of days, and I have to tell you, folks, I've posted it in the chat room. It's on my Facebook page. What a pillar of information. I put it in my favorites because I have to keep going back to it.
There's a whole library about virtually anything you might need, from smoking cessation to conquering cancer. It's all there. And
it is.
AlchemyInstitute.com. Just plug that in and get onto our free web library and start learning about how hypnosis can help your life.
It is. It's a fabulous website, and I will repost it again in the chat room. Now, David, I wanted to ask you, and this is a question that's come in through, a lot of my emails in the last few days, and that is, what is an alchemist exactly?
Well, that's a good question. Now, alchemists are a very different kind of career path than, say, psychotherapists or hypnotherapists. A psychotherapist goes into a therapeutic relationship with their clients in order to build a therapeutic relationship, in order to help the person learn how to be in a relationship and explore their feelings and their choices and their issues from the point of view of a wise counselor. So in a certain sense, psychotherapy is basically the idea of the wise counselor having the answers and the importance of a therapeutic relationship, learning how to care for each other, being a part of the relationship. Hypnosis is very different. In hypnosis, the idea is that we don't bother to establish a long-term relationship, but instead the hypnotist simply uses the power of hypnotic suggestion or other hypnotic techniques like regression or parts work to help the client to go into their inner world and explore hypnotically, changing the patterning within the subconscious mind. An alchemist works different than either of these. Although technically we are trained as hypnotherapists, our main job as alchemists is to help introduce our clients to the real source of healing, the best source of healing, which is their own inner guides. That is the internal resources that the client can call upon on their own to solve their problems. And our job as alchemists is to train our clients into calling upon these inner resources. It could be as simple, for example, as using the power of one's higher power. You may be familiar with this in the 12-step recovery movement. As alchemists, we call upon the higher power every day to help us maintain sobriety, but also to help us lose weight. We can also utilize the powers of what's called the Body Wisdom Guide, who is the guide to help us with questions of nutrition and exercise and vitamin and mineral supplementation to preserve our health. We can even call upon the inner mate as a guide to loving relationships. So the truth is, the best therapists are the ones that live inside your client's subconscious mind. And when we can teach clients to access these inner guides, therapists, and teachers, and to do so on a daily basis, then we are truly driving the Ferrari of therapy, because the client is able to have access to their inner therapist 24/7, 365 days a year.
And
that's why we call ourselves alchemists. That we're not hypnotists, we're not psychotherapists, because our job is to get you in touch with and train you to use the resources that already exist inside your subconscious.
And I don't think a lot of people use their subconscious like they should. You know, the subconscious is a very powerful thing. It can
Well,
be.
I think people are always being used by their subconscious, for sure. I mean, people who have patterns of addiction or chronic disease are being ruled by powers within their subconscious mind. And it's therefore extremely important for them to start paying attention to what's happening in there.
So being more aware of oneself, basically.
At just deepest levels, exactly, yes.
Makes sense to me. Now, I know you opened your institute back in, was that 1984?
Well, actually, it was up at Hartwood Institute. Hartwood College near Garverville was the place I began my teaching, and that's where the institute first began in 1983. It was our first graduating class in 84 that put us on the map. And since then, the institute has moved to Santa Rosa, where we've been most of the last, 30 years now.
Well, that is a beautiful part of the world. I love going past San Francisco Bay North.
Oh, it's
beautiful
so beautiful
country
up here. Oh, it's very beautiful country. The wine country,
the
Redwood Empire, the beautiful Sonoma County coast. I mean, there are legendary, beautiful places here. And, of course, I offer professional retreat programs where people can come out and train with me for a month right in the middle of this beautiful countryside. And some clients actually come up and see me for 2 or 3 days and spend time in the wine country enjoying the beautiful redwoods while doing sessions with me. So there is certainly a blessing for people in coming to visit and do work with me here in Sonoma County, California.
Well, it sounds lovely, and I'll have to pay you a visit the next time I'm in the Bay Area.
Absolutely.
Because it just sounds beautiful. Now, I wanted to ask you, I've heard a lot of positive experiences with people who have gone through hypnotherapy and whatnot, and mostly these are people that are dealing with, either chronic illness or some sort of an addiction. And how can hypnotherapy provide relief and rehabilitation for certain individuals with diseases?
Well, first of all, let me remind you that most of the applications of hypnosis today in the field of disease are about chronic pain control, anxiety control, control of side effects of drugs and chemotherapy. So most of the use of hypnosis today are simply about what I would call symptom control. And of course, that's valuable. But my work is very different. My work is about accessing and clearing the underlying cause of physical illness within the subconscious mind as an adjunct to medical treatment. So, in other words, I'm not talking about just pain control, nor am I just talking about addressing what are called psychosomatic illnesses. Clients often say, well, David, are you just telling me that this disease is all in my mind? The answer is not at all. But almost every physical illness has some component within the subconscious mind, some kind of emotional pain or some kind of negative core belief that the client is not conscious of, but which has become stored in the body and turns into a disease. This is especially true of cancer and autoimmune diseases in general, diseases like lupus, allergies, food allergies, pollen allergies, rheumatoid arthritis, for example, which had me crippled back in my 20s. Although now I'm a healthy mountaineer, so I don't have that problem anymore. Instead, what people experience as these autoimmune diseases, and cancer, by the way, is an autoimmune disease because the immune system, which is supposed to attack and destroy it, does not do so. All of these are connected to subconscious patterns of beliefs, feelings, and behaviors that are obviously beneath the conscious mind. So, as an adjunct to medical treatment, what I want to do is take my clients in to address and clear these underlying causes. I believe that one of the main reasons why relapse in the field of both autoimmune disease and cancer is so common is because doctors simply, in spite of the fact that they're quite aware there is something called the cancer personality, there is such a thing as the allergic disease personality, but doctors are completely unaware of how to treat it and refuse to even acknowledge its existence in their regular treatment of patients. They may know in the literature that there is a cancer personality, that there are certain personality traits that lend one to develop cancer. They know this is the case, but they're not willing or able to do anything about that.
And why is that? Is that because of the strictness of, the FDA or any of that stuff, or?
Well, let's just say the pharmaceutical industry would frown upon any approach to cancer that doesn't make them rich.
Right.
The pharmaceutical industry is the wealthiest industry in the world today. The profits of the pharmaceutical industry exceed those of all other businesses in America and in the world put together.
Yep.
And a lot of their profits are made from selling exotic chemotherapy drugs to cancer patients at the tune of often $100,000 per drug regimen. They are making plenty of money on cancer. Thank you very much. They have no interest in actually curing it.
Oh, well, why would you cure a cash cow, right?
That's exactly. Why kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, even if that goose is killing millions of people? So, of course, they're not going to be behind it. So, and another thing, of course, as Leslie DeCron points out in his book, Cancer as a Turning Point. This is a psychiatrist and oncologist who uncovered in many of his patients the underlying cause of their cancer. They looked at it, they laughed about it, they wept about it, they changed their beliefs and attitudes and behaviors, and they were released from the hospital cancer-free. The problem he had with this was he said, I don't know how to get people in touch with these underlying purposes, these underlying causes, these underlying solutions, doing the long and complicated story time of psychiatry. I don't know how to get there, and therefore he said the majority of his patients would wind up dying because he didn't have a precise technology to help them access this underlying cause. But if they stumbled into it, then a cure was almost invariable. With or without medical treatment, the cancer would completely disappear. But the reason that he could not institute this on a regular basis was, number one, it would have been completely opposed by the pharmaceutical industry that funds most medical schools and funds hospitals in this country. But also because he didn't have any idea how to readily and easily get in touch with those underlying causes. Well, that's what I do. And that's why I won the Order of the Braid from the National Guild of Hypnotists, is because I have developed precise protocols to access and clear the underlying cause of any chronic disease. Again, this is not to be a substitute for medical treatment, but what it means is the medicine your doctor gives you is going to be far more effective, and you're going to be far more likely to be protected from the kind of relapsing condition that is very common in the world of medicine today. Well, we can put you in remission. They don't even talk about cancer cures anymore because nobody gets cured, but maybe you can be in remission for a while, and the reason is because doctors don't have any idea how to take you back to clear the underlying cause that would, of course, prevent the disease from recurring. Now, there's many ways that I can